What's up, everybody? This is Chris Surratt bringing you another edition of the Car Concierge Show, the show that helps with the buying, selling, maintaining, and repairing of your vehicle. On today's show, we're going to talk about Trump, talk about the tariffs and how they're going to affect the automakers. And we're going to do the show a little bit differently this time. What we're going to do is we're going to check out what Trump said in his recent speech about the automotive industry. And then after that, we're going to check out a couple of stories pretty much based off the tariffs and how people are feeling that the tariffs are going to affect the automotive industry, as well as some promising news about bringing work here for the U.S. people. So let's start off with what Trump said at his recent speech about the automotive industry, and it'll be downhill from there. So let's check it out.
And by the way, we're going to have growth in the auto industry like nobody's ever seen. Plants are opening up all over the place. Deals are being made. Never seen. That's a combination of the election win and tariffs. It's a beautiful word, isn't it? That, along with our other policies, will allow our auto industry to absolutely boom. It's going to boom. Spoke to the majors today, all three, the top people, and they're so excited. In fact, already numerous car companies.
Top three. So he talked to the top three of the automotive industry. Who do we think that is? Is that the top people over at Stellantis, maybe GM? We know what the top three is in the U.S. and he's saying that he spoke with them, and we can just hope that all of these tariffs and things that Donald Trump is doing is to their benefit. So let's keep going.
Have announced that they will be building massive automobile plants in America, with Honda just announcing a new plant in Indiana, one of the largest anywhere in the world.
See, and of course I got to be happy about that. Of course, I am from Indiana, so the opportunity for Honda to build one of the largest plants around in Indiana would be magnificent, because of course it'd bring a lot of jobs, tourism, all kinds of opportunities will happen when you build plants in these areas. So it's just a great thing when that happens.
And this has taken place since our great victory on November 5th, a date which will hopefully go down as one of the most important in the history of our country. In addition, as part of our tax cut reduction and all manufacturing, and just as we did before, we will provide 100% expensing. It will be retroactive to January 20th, 2025. And it was one of the main reasons why our tax cuts were so successful in our first term, giving us the most successful economy in the history of our country. First term. We had a great first term. If you don't make your product in America, however, under the Trump administration, you will pay a tariff, and in some cases, a rather large one. Other countries have used tariffs against us for decades, and now it's our turn to start using them against those other countries. On average, the European Union, China, Brazil, India, Mexico, and Canada, have you heard of them? And countless other nations charge us tremendously higher tariffs than we charge them.
And that's pretty much why I'm not having a big problem with this whole tariff situation. I'm not caring that, we are going to be in a situation where parts and vehicles are going to be more expensive, because I am an adamant guy on buy American, and not adamant to the point where I don't buy parts and stuff from overseas. It's just a necessity in my business. But I am, when it comes to the making sure that the American people are taken care of, that the products that the American people are making are being purchased by the American people. And I appreciate variety. I appreciate the opportunity to buy stuff that you from other countries that you might like better than the stuff here in America. But I also believe that if that's the way you're going to go, then tariffs will put it in perspective that it's always better or more advantageous to buy American if you can. So if these tariffs allow the automakers to put American vehicles on the road that are priced comparable or less than vehicles that come from Mexico or Canada, that is kind of the point. And of course, I truly believe that the tariffs are really a magnificent negotiating tool that Trump has used tremendously to get the borders taken care of and other great things. So I really truly still believe in tariffs.
It's very unfair. India charges us auto tariffs higher than 100%. China's average tariff on our products is twice what we charge them. And South Korea's average tariff is 4 times higher. Think of that, 4 times higher. And we give so much help.
If that's true, then why would anybody here have a problem with him putting tariffs on things that come from other countries? If it's true that we have been paying tariffs to India and China, Mexico and Canada all along, and they haven't been paying tariffs to us, that is a major problem. That is a major allowance of letting people get over on us. And we don't want that, do we?
Militarily and in so many other ways to South Korea, but that's what happens. This is happening by friend and foe. This system is not fair to the United States and never was, and so on April 2nd, I wanted to make it April 1st, but I didn't want to be accused of April Fool's Day. That's not, just one day was cost us a lot of money. But we're going to do it in April. I'm a very superstitious person. April 2nd, reciprocal tariffs kick in. And whatever they tariff us, other countries, we will tariff them.
That sounds like an excellent idea. Who could truly complain about that? Who could truly complain about us tariffing the other countries this exact same that they're tariffing us? Who could complain about that? Who would see that as unfair or not a good idea? If that's the situation, then, I mean, that would put us in a perfect position to say that nobody can complain about tariffs if we're doing exactly what they're doing to us to them. Because it just evens the playing field. And obviously the playing field has been uneven for a long time if we're in a situation where we've been paying tariffs up to 4 times to these countries and they haven't been paying us anything. That is insane. Let's keep going.
Reciprocal back and forth. Whatever they tax us, we will tax them.
Wow, look at that. Look at that. Can you see that? Look at that. Why is this half standing up and cheering, this half all sitting down and not doing nothing? Why is that? It is so much divide in this country. It's so crazy.
Tariffs to keep us out of their market, then we will do non-monetary barriers to keep them out of our market. There's a lot of that too. They don't even allow us in their market.
Yeah.
We will take in trillions and trillions of dollars and create jobs like we have never seen before.
And I want to touch on that too, because there was a comment on one of my shows not that long ago, and the gentleman was correcting me and saying that, because I said something to the fact that, you know, countries like Russia and China don't allow a percentage of our vehicles into their country. And he corrected me in saying that Russia is the biggest import of our vehicles into their country, which isn't true, but Russia does have a good percentage of American vehicles on their roads. Predominantly because Russia doesn't produce that many automobiles, but hey, I just had to say that because I had to let you know that you was right and you was wrong, bro.
I did it with China and I did it with others, and the Biden administration couldn't do anything about it because there was so much money they couldn't do anything about it. We have been ripped off for decades by nearly every country on earth, and we will not let that happen any longer.
All right. And that, my friends, is what I'm talking about. I mean,
hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on CBS.
Sorry about that. What we're talking about is that the U.S. has been getting ripped off for quite some time. And it always seemed like the U.S. was looked at as the big brother to all these other countries, you know, the father figure to all these other countries. And when they had problems, we'd open up our wallets just like a good father would and hand over the money to correct whatever problems we have. And that's not a fair relationship that we have with these countries, specifically because they're as old or they're as fatherly as we are, and they're making their own decisions, and we're not making decisions for them because we're not really their father. And so we're not getting the bonus of being a father, but we're still shelling out all the money to help you out when you have a problem. And I really think that Trump is trying his best, not trying his best. Trump is going about making the U.S. a business and making sure that the U.S. is covering its backs. He doesn't. We have the idea of masculinity in the White House now. He's being a true man and a true father figure. He's making sure that, hey, if I'm helping you, you helping me. Reciprocity is the word of the day. He really wants to make sure that we're getting as much as we're giving. And we've been given a lot. And it's been proven that we haven't been getting a lot in return. And that is a major problem. And I see that it really looks like that's what Trump is attacking when it comes to these other countries. And it seems to be working. The tariffs have worked just as a negotiation ploy. They have worked to help secure up the borders. And nobody can scoff at that. Stop fentanyl, stop illegal immigration to some degree. All that's been shot down in, a month? And it's all due to the tariffs. So I really honestly think that the tariffs are a good thing. I understand that people are going to complain about, the cost of things going up. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think that these countries are going to understand that these tariffs are put on because they were taking advantage of us for so long. And they're going to somewhat bow to the idea that, we need to put in as much as we take out. As simple as that. So, we're going to go over a couple of stories on the reactions of the tariffs and stuff like that, and see what people are thinking. Because a couple of great stories, and one of them is about my favorite place, Stellantis. It's like my favorite company, Stellantis, and how they're going to lose billions when it comes to Trump's tariffs. All right, this is going to be a reader, and of course, this is our favorite spot to get our news from, Automotive News, and it's Automotive News Europe. Trump tariffs on Mexico, Canada could cost Stellantis, Volkswagen billions. This is by Staff and Wire reports from March 4th. Stellantis and Volkswagen are the European automakers most highly exposed to U.S. President Donald Trump's new tariffs on vehicles imported from Mexico and Canada, according to Bloomberg Intelligence, which says the levies could wipe out a total of $5.88 billion, $6.2 billion, 5.88 billion euros, $6.2 billion of European automakers' earnings this year. It's a lot of money. Stellantis could import about 417,000 cars to the U.S. from the two countries, with a 25% tariff, assuming no mitigating measures are implemented. 3.4 billion euro of Stellantis and 1.77 billion of Volkswagen earnings are at risk, Michael Dean, a Bloomberg senior analyst, estimated in a report March 4th. There is a limited scope to pass this additional cost on to buyers amid rising U.S. price discounts that average $2,000 intense competition and overcapacity, Dean wrote. The unlikely scenario of the whole levy being passed on to buyers would result in a $6,000 to $10,000 price hike. And that's why I don't believe that they're going to do that. They ain't stupid. Ain't nobody going to buy their cars if somebody do that. You're just going to bow down and keep your cars at price, and you're going to pay the tariff on your end. That's what expected. So, if you are an idiot and these tariffs make some car at the dealership what, six to $10,000 more, why the hell would you buy it? Find something else cheaper. What's wrong with you? Now, if you got the money to pay for that, that's cool. Do what you do. But don't complain about the tariffs just because these prices on these cars done went up and there's other cars you can buy. Stellantis led European automaker stocks lower in trading on March 4th, with its Milan-listed shares falling more than 6% to lowest in-trade day trading since December 2nd after the resignation of CEO Carlos Tavares. Volkswagen's preference shares dropped more than 4% in Frankfurt, where BMW and Mercedes-Benz Group also slumped. Miss Frankfurt. The Stocks Europe 600 Automobiles and Parts Index was down 3.8 overall. In addition to automakers, major suppliers that support those companies in Canada and Mexico are facing tariff pressure. Continental, which provided a bleak outlook for 2025 on March 4th, said it would now analyze what the tariffs meant for its sites in those countries before making any decisions. It's therefore all the more important for Europe as an industrial location that the EU supports an open trade regime in the long term. Continental CEO Nikolai Seltzer said the supplier's shares were down 8.4%. The EU will not be pushed around, German minister says. The tariffs are a particular pain for Germany's exporter-oriented automakers, which all have major production hubs in the United States but have also built up capacity in Mexico over the years. The next fear is that Trump will turn his attention to imposing similar tariffs on Europe. He has said he will impose reciprocal tariffs of up to 25% on goods from the EU, which he has accused of taking advantage of the U.S. We're accusing all countries of doing that. The EU will not be pushed around, Germany Economy Minister Robert Habeck said. If President Trump imposes the announced tariffs on EU products, we will react with unity and self-confidence. And some reaction. Mercedes-Benz, in an email statement to Reuters, said protectionist measures often led to countermeasures, and this would have negative economic consequences for all players. This cannot be in the interest of politics and business, Mercedes said. Trump has also signed orders to impose 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum starting March 12th. The European Union and leaders, including French President Emmanuel Macron, said they would respond with proportionate countermeasures, including reciprocal tariffs on U.S. materials. The steel and aluminum tariffs, which have no exemptions, are more expansive than those Trump put into place during his first term, when 25% tariffs on steel and 10% duties on aluminum are applied to imports from Canada, Mexico, and European Union. The tariffs on Canada and Mexican steel and aluminum were in place for about a year before being dropped in 2019 as the countries looked to adopt the United States Mexico-Canada agreement. The EU tariffs lasted until 2021. All right, so that tells us that Trump has already started put tariffs on when he was in office the first time. So this shouldn't be a surprise. He was trying to do this the first time. Obviously, he didn't. It went into a situation where they created an agreement to quell that, but he's not doing that anymore. He ain't trying to play nice anymore. He wants his money back, our money back. We want reciprocation. We want to feel the same thing that you feel when you take from us. Reciprocation, man, it just makes sense. We want to be in a position where we're making money and not spending money. It's just good business. It's just good business. Let's check out another story. So, we've already talked about how Honda is building the plant over in Indiana. It's fantastic. Supposed to be the biggest plant that Honda's built in a long time. Lots of jobs. They didn't specify how many jobs, but lots of jobs, opportunity for those people in Indiana. Fantastic. So, we're also checking out Volvo as they decide that they're going to start moving some of their production over into the U.S. as well. Let's check that story out real quick. Volvo molds U.S. production expansion on as it braces for tariffs on European car imports. And this is by Douglas A. Baudour from today, Stockholm. Volvo may expand output as its U.S. plant if President Donald Trump carries out his threat to significantly increase tariffs on European auto imports. Volvo CEO Jim Rowan expects a 2.5% tariff imposed by the U.S. on European car imports to be increased, especially since U.S. auto exports to the European Union are hit with a 10% tariff. Makes sense, right? Makes sense, right? If you hitting us with a tariff, why can't we hit you with a tariff? That don't. It seems. It seems fair. It seems fair. President Trump has said there should be reciprocity. I love that word. Rowan said, I think the minimum is that it's going to be 10% each way. That's a given. The question is, does it go as high as 25% because of Canada and Mexico? That may be the case. Trump said March 4th during a joint session of Congress that tariffs are about making America rich again and making America great again. The president's remarks came hours after the U.S. implemented tariffs of 25% on top trading partners, Canada and Mexico, and double levies on China to 20%. Trump has said that tariff on imports from Europe should be higher, but his administration has not provided a figure. Volvo has spare U.S. capacity to avoid higher Trump tariffs. Volvo is reviewing a range of scenarios to determine the best way to offset tariffs, including expanding output at its factory in Charleston, South Carolina, where it has spare capacity. So they're going to start putting cars out of Charleston, South Carolina. More jobs for those people in South Carolina. More opportunity for people in South Carolina through Volvo. It seems like these things are working. Why does it seem to me like all of this tariff stuff and all these things that Trump is doing is working to me? It seems like the stuff that Honda, Volvo, another one that escapes my brain, but I know there was another one. It just seems like this stuff is working, guys. So, if it's working, why don't we just let it play its course? If the shit hits the fan, okay, I'm going to say something. We're going to talk about it. I'm a fair opportunity guy. If Trump does some crazy shit, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to tell you it's fucked up or crazy and whatever. But right now, this really looks like this stuff is working. He said the change would take time but could be completed reasonably quick. Then we would need to say what would be the best car for us to put in there, depending on the tariffs and how quickly we can get that done, Rowan said. Until last summer, Volvo built the S60 midsize sedan in South Carolina, and it now makes the full electric EX90 and Polestar 3 large SUVs there. Polestar 3 is made by Volvo? I'd like to check that out. The plant is capable of building cars underpinned by the first and second generations of Volvo's scalable product architecture, SPA1 and SPA2. When asked February 7th about U.S. production to defend against tariffs, Roy mentioned another alternative. Do we want to future-proof a little bit more by moving a new model into the United States rather than moving an old model with a more limited life cycle, he asked. That is obviously going to take a little bit longer because we would need to cut new tools. He said Volvo's executive management team is discussing the topic regularly. Volvo is also looking at whether it still makes sense to export its EX30 small SUV from Europe to the U.S. or to add production in South Carolina. The current versions of the EX30 are manufactured in China. Production of the EX30 for European automakers will begin this year at Volvo's factory in Guinea, Belgium. Rowan didn't rule out U.S. sales of EX30s made in Europe. It depends on the model. We think the EX30 Cross Country will be a pretty good seller in the U.S. There's more profit margin on the top trim levels with all-wheel drive and extended range battery, he said. We're modeling all of that out right now. The EX30 Cross Country is expected to cost in the $50,000 range, compared with the about $36,300 for the base version. In Europe, the base price for the EX30cc is €57,290. In Germany, it is due to arrive at dealerships this summer. The starting price for the entry version of the small SUV is €39,790. All right, so, and that's what I'm saying. I really am looking at this and diving into this, and of course, I'm looking at it from the automotive viewpoint through and through. And as far as it comes to the automotive industry and these tariffs and Trump, it looks like everything that has been put into place is working. It looks like it's bringing opportunities to the U.S. It's like it's bringing down the interest rates on stuff. It's going to bring the cost of cars and automobiles down. It's going to make the used car market more profitable and, bigger to some degree, because, people ain't going to be buying brand new cars no more. So it's extremely beneficial on a majority of levels for me. I just can't see, and that's my whole thing. I understand that people are just waiting for Trump to do some horrible thing. I saw something on Fatty's show earlier. He was talking about them pardoning Derek Chauvin, the guy that kneeled on George Floyd's neck. I ain't going for that. That's some bull job. I would. This or not. But of course, it wasn't Trump saying that. I think it was Ben Shapiro that was saying that. And if something like that, if he was to pardon him or something like that, maybe I would say something. But that's not related to the automotive industry. Yeah. In this show, we try our best. Of course, it's my show, so I do what I want. But we try our best to stick with the automotive industry, what we know. And what we know is that these tariffs, these threats of tariffs, these tariffs used in negotiation have been working. It's done wonders. Honda factory in Indiana. Volvo repurposing factories over in South Carolina. This is what we need. We need more factories. We need a lot of these automakers, specifically the Hondas and the Kias, I don't care, the Hyundais. We need them to reciprocate with us. We need them to make sure that we are not only spending with them, but we're earning with them, because that's good business. We're losing. The American way of life was lost by giving it away. Let's face it. We gave all our production of our stuff away. We gave so much. We turned into a major country of import. We just get all our crap from all around the world, and we don't send nothing out, and we're not making any money. So we're just spending money, and we're not making any money back, and that has to stop. And I really truly believe that with Trump in office, with the things he's doing specifically for the automotive industry, that's what's happening. We see it right here. We see it right here. I think there was one more story I want to check out real quickly. So there was another automotive news story about how the tariffs could hurt the big Detroit 3. I want to read that story real quick. I'm going to let y'all get up out of here. All right. Tariffs could wipe out Detroit 3 profits, disrupt virtually all automakers. By Michael Martinez, and of course it's from today, March 5th, and it is from our favorite spot, Automotive News. The 25% tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico could erase billions of dollars from the bottom lines of the Detroit 3 and upend operations at virtually every automaker operating in the U.S., analysts and investors warned. Analysts and investors. While it's generally understood that a blanket 25% tariff on any vehicles or content from Mexico or Canada could be disruptive, it may be underappreciated how disruptive this could be. Barclays senior equity research analyst Dan Levy wrote in a March 4th investor note. Excuse me. In short, without any adjustment from OEMs, i.e. no price increase, no adjustment in production plans, we estimate it could wipe out effectively all profits for the D3. So they're saying pretty much that any profits they get will be spent on their tariffs. That's what they're saying. On March 5th, one day after tariffs were implemented, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said President Donald Trump will exempt vehicles covered by the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement for 1 month so that they are not at an economic disadvantage. Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis requested the exemption. Of course they did. Of course they did. And they was going to get it because they Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis. They're the big three of the United States of America. General Motors made $6 billion last year, while Ford Motor Company made $5.9 billion and Stellantis made $5.7 billion. Look at these numbers. In addition, the tariffs could wipe out a total of $6.2 billion of European automakers' earnings this year, according to Bloomberg Intelligence, with Volkswagen among the most vulnerable. The only way it could wipe it out if they use it to pay the tariffs. And we already know that that's not what's going to happen, but let's read this story. Even Tesla, which builds all of its models in the U.S., won't escape unscathed, Levy said, because many of its vehicles are assembled with components from other countries. Tesla gets 20 to 25% of parts from Mexico, he said. We would expect automakers with mixed production footprints such as D3 to reduce Canada-Mexico production for now, instead of relying on their U.S. footprint to the extent possible, Levy wrote. About 3.6 million vehicles were imported in the U.S. from Canada and Mexico in 2024, according to S&P Global Mobility, and they include many of this country's best-selling models. Okay. Edmunds found that roughly a quarter of all new vehicle sales in the first 2 months of 2025 came from those two countries. Levy said GM is particularly exposed because it produces about 840,000 vehicles annually in Mexico, 150,000 in Canada, the most in both countries of any automaker. Did y'all know that? Did y'all know that GM makes the Honda Prologue over in Mexico? Isn't that weird? And I showed this in another show, but it threw me so off. It threw me so off when I saw this at my collision shop. That this Honda Prologue, 2024 Honda Prologue came in, and I checked it out because I'd never seen a Prologue before, and the tagging says that it's a General Motors product, and it says made by Mexico, and it threw me so off. It threw me so off. If General Motors and Honda working together to build cars, it's interesting. Levy said GM is I got that. Vehicles assembled in Mexico accounted for about a quarter of GM's 2024 U.S. sales, 23% for Stellantis and 18% for Ford. Imports from Canada were 11% of Stellantis U.S. sales, 5% of GM, and 3% for Ford. Nearly half of Volkswagen sales last year were from Mexico, Edmunds said. Several analysts have estimated that 25% tariffs could add thousands of dollars to the cost of a vehicle imported from Mexico or Canada. Ivan Drury, director of insights at Edmunds, expected the impact to be felt almost immediately. Depending on when the next shipment crosses the border, they'll be paying, and they will be paying, Drury told Automotive News. We know it's going to trickle down in some way, shape, or form. It's going to be sooner than later. That's the point. If it doesn't trickle down, you're not paying it, then you're keeping your profit. So you really putting the cart before the horse and just making an assumption that y'all gonna pay out of pocket for these tariffs, because standardly that's not what happens. You don't pay out of pocket. Usually they try to put it off on the consumer, but standardly some countries like China will just pay it and then get their money on the back end. Detroit 3 shares fall. Ford CEO Jim Farley previously warned that 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada would blow a hole in the U.S. industry that we have never seen. GM CEO Mary Barra had said executives believed they could take actions to mitigate 30 to 50% of the tariffs costs without the need for additional capital. CFO Paul Jacobson in January said GM was trying to expedite deliveries to the U.S. from Mexico and Canada before tariffs took effect. Barra also has said GM has the ability to absorb some pickup production from Mexico and Canada in the U.S., which means they have ability to build these pickups in the U.S. and give U.S. people jobs instead of doing it over in Mexico and Canada. And that's what we want to happen anyway. Ridiculous. Most automotive stocks fell March 4th after the tariffs were put in place, with shares dropping 4.5% for GM, 4.4% for Stellantis, and 2.9% for Ford. The Detroit 3, however, stayed silent on the topic, instead referring to previous statements by the American Automotive Policy Council that represents them in Washington. There's really nothing they can say or do right now that's going to make it better, Drury said. There's too much risk right now without seeing what happens over the next few days or weeks. Only unless this drags on will we hear definitive statements from them. John Bazzola, CEO of Alliance for Automotive Innovation, a trade group that represents automakers, suppliers, and tech companies in the U.S., said in March 4th statement that all will be affected and the impact would be almost immediate. All right, I'm done. So what we're talking about is just a whole bunch of people bellyaching about something they don't really know or understand, to the point where They're saying that they're going to lose all their money. They're going to pay all their money on these tariffs, these 25% tariffs, and that's where all their profit is going to go to, and they're going to be poor, and it's going to be horrible. That can't be farther from the truth. It looks like to me that if these tariffs go in effect, that you just have to make some moves. And the moves that would be best for you would be to start producing parts and cars in the U.S. Because that's what we want, man. So, if we really truly believe in that, and I truly believe that the tariffs are most importantly a negotiation tactic, and it has been working fantastically as a negotiation tactic for last month. And of course, they were supposed to be engaged yesterday. I'm not, seeing any changes or any people tripping or committing suicide. So I think we're good. I think we're fine. I think that the tariffs are a good idea. I think Trump should continue with this. And I believe that, honestly, the word for the day, people, has got to be reciprocity. The fairness of treating these other countries just like they've been treating us for years. And then trying to get our get back from these countries that we've been giving billions and billions of dollars for on tariffs and assistance. Then this is the move for us. And this is what's going to make us a better country. All right, guys, I'm going to let y'all go and get up out of young. This has been a great show. The tariff thing is I think, a very important subject. I love talking about it. I really, really think that it is the pathway to rebuilding our automotive industry. So let's keep it going. All right, guys, I'm out of here. I'm getting blown up. So this is your boy Chris Surratt. I really appreciate you tuning to the show. Please like, share, subscribe. Hit me in the DMs if you have any questions. You want to tell me how to do something better, how to, whatever. I'm listening. And I'm out. Peace.